virtual meeting where some people are only available via audio. It's hopefully enough information so that we can now move on. And I'm looking, does anybody wish to speak to the agenda, to the motion to move the first order of business, item number 12? Any speakers?
Wallace, please.
So it's Councillor Wallace who wants to speak. Anybody else? No,
yes,
Councillor
Mr.
Wallace
Mayor.
then.
Yeah.
It's just a point of clarification, please, Mr. Mayor. I'm quite happy for the point to move to the head of the agenda, but I just wonder how we're going to deal with item 3, questions and comments from the members of the public. Are you content to take those after the substantive business begins?
Well, that would be the change of order of business, yes. I presume I mean, it's always going to be the case that either the questions and comments from the members of the public are too early or too late in the agenda. So as we don't know what the questions and comments are going to be, I can only work on what is before us. Did another councillor say they wanted to speak?
Mr. Mayor, yes, Francis Purdue-Horan.
Yeah, you need to say Councillor Purdue-Horan then, yeah, okay. Mr.
Yeah.
Councillor Purdue-Horan.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I wish to move that we move item 12 to become item 1 on the agenda, the first item of business, because it will involve amending standing orders.
Right, okay. So with no further people wishing to speak, we now move to the vote. So the clerk will read each name and...
Do we need a seconder?
I'm content to second.
Okay,
Councillor Wallace is the seconder. So we're moving the amending the business of the meeting so that number 12 is first. The clerk now reads each name and you indicate if you're in favour of that by saying for, or against that by saying against, or abstaining by saying abstaining. This is for councillors only, please. The clerk.
Councillor Best.
For.
Okie doke.
Councillor Leach is not on the line yet.
No. Or she's muted. Oh no, she's coming. Is she present at all? Councillor Leach, are you in favour or against? Okay.
For.
For.
Councillor Lewis.
For.
Councillor Money.
For.
Councillor Moskwa.
For.
Councillor Purdue-Horan.
For.
Councillor Shelton.
Andrew, you're muted. You need to switch your microphone on when you speak for or against.
Has Councillor Sims come on the call yet?
Yeah, I'm here.
Are you for or against Councillor Sims?
I didn't hear the conversation.
It's with regard to moving item 12 to the first item of business.
For.
Councillor Stapleton.
For.
Councillor John Stockwood.
For.
Councillor Maureen Stockwood.
For.
Councillor Wallace.
For.
Councillor Williams.
For.
Right. Can I just ask, before we go into item 12, does anyone have any declarations of interest to make in regard to item 12? We'll take other declarations of interest after item 12, but we haven't covered off declarations of interest.
Nope.
Do I take the silence as no declarations for item 12? Thank you.
Right, item 12 is, which is the new first item, is to resolve to agree actions in response to the coronavirus pandemic. And Councillor Purdue-Horan, you wish to speak?
Yes, please, Mr. Mayor.
Crack on then.
I wish to move this motion to enable the business
Yeah,
of
it's working fine.
Bingham Town Council to proceed during this most extraordinary period we find ourselves in. Just to assist perhaps those members of the public who would appreciate some background information, on Monday the 16th of March, Notts County Council and Rushcliffe Borough Council, and probably most councils across the country, started to sort of lock down in a sort of softly manner to await further action or decisions, because it became clear over that weekend that clearly social physical distancing was clearly the way forward from the medical and scientific advice. As we all know, on Monday, the 23rd of March, the Prime Minister announced that from 8:30 that evening, that the country would go into effectively a more tighter lockdown, as it were, partial lockdown, but a lockdown nevertheless, and that affected greatly the business of local authorities, in particular, including Bingham Town Council. And as you know, Mr. Mayor, that members of Parliament remained in the council chamber, the parliamentary chamber, to enact emergency legislation, which was laid down, as it's called, brought into force as the Coronavirus Act 2020 on either Thursday the 26th or Friday the 27th of March. However, after that, particular sections of that act affected councils, and as we all know, the law within this act, the statutory instruments were brought into force on Saturday, the 4th of April, and so Bingham Town Council has then since been able to hold virtual meetings such as we are enacting this evening. So that's the national background of it. And Mr. Mayor, the County Council and Rushcliffe Borough Council have been working extremely hard and fast to assist the government in helping communities to cope with the pandemic situation that we have, and at the moment that we don't know how long will last for. And so this particular motion is to enable the council to carry on as much as possible its functions in Bingham. Now, interestingly, our senior councils have chosen to cancel meetings until at least July. But I think it's fair to say from the conversations that we've had and various email traffic that simply suspending all activity from the democratic process in terms of meetings will be unacceptable to local councillors. And so along with the paper for this motion, we also have an amended and updated calendar, which will bring us up towards the end of September to carry on meetings. And under the new legislation that will last until the 7th of May 2021, we will be able to have remote meetings if that is appropriate. And I'm sure, Mr. Mayor, and it's important to say this, that I distributed an amended version of your original motion for 2 weeks ago, on the basis that, of course, since that time, the law actually changed and the act came into force. And so what members should have with them this evening is very similar to the paper that was distributed a fortnight ago for the postponed meeting, with minor changes or additions taking into account the change in the law that we currently find ourselves in. And the idea of this motion, as I said, is not only just to enable Bingham Town Council to continue its business as normal as possible, but also to recognise the tremendous work that other councils are doing, in particular Notts County and Rushcliffe, and also the spontaneous initiative by volunteers in Bingham who have created Bingham Helping Hands. And it is incumbent on this council to ensure that their honourable intentions and fantastic volunteering carries on throughout the months that our community faces this unprecedented pandemic that we find ourselves in. Mr. Mayor, as I said, we have a calendar of meetings along with the actual motion, and members will have seen that on item point C that we have a review clause by the 31st of August, and I would suggest, Mr. Mayor, that the review would be on the full council scheduled for Tuesday the 28th of July as a sensible 3-month sort of review period to see how we're going on. I'm not very optimistic that things will change tremendously. Obviously, we follow the news every day, and it seems to be, in the opinion of experts, that we are looking at, a considerable number of weeks, and obviously our experience will be able to show whether, in fact, this law and regulations will be required up to May 2021. However, Bingham Town Council will have an opportunity to review it towards the end of July anyway. And Mr. Mayor, it's important also to remind members that in the proposed calendar of meetings, the only meetings that perhaps won't go ahead are the annual meeting of the council, where we normally, of course, have the mayor making ceremony and vote, and the annual town residents meeting, both usually held in July, because, of course, as we know, the experts have been saying that perhaps April, May will be the peak of the virus period, as it were. So it makes sense, Mr. Mayor, that we use this to amend our standing orders to have control of public meetings, and also perhaps to cancel the summer fair, as it says in point D, to work with the guidance laid down by the government to keep public meetings as few as possible, or in fact zero, for the next few weeks or so. So there's only 2 meetings that are really affected. This motion also gives this council and its committees authority to hold meetings by remote communication, such as what we're using this evening. In addition, Mr. Mayor, I'm sure there's things I've forgotten about, but to support our senior authorities in point G, we would like to slightly amend our 3-year reserve forecast to set aside from our general reserves up to £25,000 for local humanitarian aid for vulnerable Bingham residents during the coronavirus pandemic period. And it will be, I'm sure, supported by members that we must play our part in ensuring that we look after people as much as possible who find themselves in a vulnerable situation. The motion also, Mr. Mayor, supports the town clerk and the staff of Bingham Town Council, who may themselves find themselves in a situation where they're taken out because of illness or having to isolate. And it allows for the business of this council to be managed in such a way as appropriate, depending on circumstances. These things are moving very fast, and it is important that Bingham Town Council is able to move flexibly to support the community and to support the work of our colleagues in other councils. Mr. Mayor, I would move that we set up a subcommittee of the Policy and Resources Committee, a resilience subcommittee, for want of a better name, whose terms of reference are to support the existing committees and full council between meetings and enable the continuation of council business during the Coronavirus Act 2020 up to, but not necessarily, the 7th of May 2021. And the membership is suggested is the town mayor, the deputy mayor, the committee chairs, the 3 committee chairs of Councillor Williams, Councillor Mrs Stockwood, myself, Councillor Monica Money, and 1 non-conservative councillor. The subcommittee may appoint other councillors, as and when, if it is appropriate, because it is quite possible, Mr. Mayor, that 1 or more of those members could also be taken out of the picture because of illness. We simply don't know. I also wish, finally, in conclusion, bring members' attention to point I, paragraph I, points 1 to 8, to delegate the following functions of the Council to the Resilience Subcommittee and amend or suspend financial regulations to allow this delegation, to appoint a proper officer and responsible financial officer from employees who are available to work, because it is quite possible, Mr. Mayor, who knows, that the town clerk and the deputy clerk could be taken out of the picture at the same time. 2, to engage temporary staff to fulfil employee roles and to agree temporary contracts to deliver council services. And indeed, we're going to do that later on this evening, as you know. 4, to implement the procedures of the approved health and safety policy handbook, employee handbook and training and development policy. 5, to consider official advice and decide whether to proceed with, reschedule or cancel the annual meeting of the council and the annual town meeting, both usually held in May, and that's now looking as if they both will be cancelled, given the official advice coming from London. 6, to authorise expenditure with the approved budget and 3-year reserve forecasts, such expenditure being in accordance with a resolution of the council. 7, to instruct payments to be made by the responsible financial officer for authorised expenditure. If anything does happen, Mr. Mayor, during the next few months, it is important that Bingham Town Council pays its contractors on time, because local businesses are obviously under pressure in terms of cash flow in particular. And 8, to approve additional councillors to sign cheques and orders for payment as required. And also, this motion, Mr. Mayor, would recognise that there is a possibility that any of us could be ill. And so in point F further up, it says to approve the absence of any councillor for up to a maximum of 6 months from the 25th of March, just in case they're not able to let us know. Mr. Mayor, I wish to move this motion to support the Town Council's activities under the Coronavirus Act 2020 regulations. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Do we have a seconder now for that motion? Councillor Money.
Hello, Mr. Mayor. Councillor Monica Money here. I would like to second that motion, please.
All right, and you're reserving the right to speak.
I don't have very much more to say than Francis said.
Right.
However, what I would say is It's really important that we can get stuff done when it needs to be done, and the current process is very cumbersome via email. I don't feel that people can communicate properly. So if we have a system where we can communicate virtually, face to face, that it's already passed and already agreed by the council in full, I just think we'll get things done much better, much quicker, and better for the community of Bingham. We can't be having 5 million email conversations about absolutely everything. It just can't happen. So I second the motion.
Okay. Any other speakers? Hello.
Like to speak, please.
Councillor Wallace.
Thank you,
Councillor
Mr.
Wallace.
Mayor.
Is anybody else? Okay, it's just Councillor Wallace at the moment then. Okay.
I would like to speak afterwards, after Councillor Wallace, please.
Okay. Councillor Wallace then.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think it's appropriate to start off perhaps by saying that we really genuinely are human beings who are living through a time in history which no other human being has experienced in at least the last 100 years. And it's difficult. I mean, it's extremely hard. It's extremely hard. And the tragedy is that we're going to have to make some difficult choices, and we're going to have to do some difficult things. And there's absolutely no getting away from that. So can I begin by saying, first and foremost, that everything that I'm going to say, which follows, has the people of Bingham and the need of orderly governance and government at the very front of my mind. The second thing I want to say is that I 100% support a great deal of what Councillor Purdo Haran has just said. It's absolutely essential that Bingham Town Council supports our local community, supports our local businesses, supports our local people, supports particularly people who are distressed or alone or fall upon hard times. And I welcome the £25,000 that's been earmarked for that very thing. So I absolutely support that. In extraordinary times, we need extraordinary action to meet the needs of our community and to prepare ourselves for crisis. And the full force of that crisis hasn't yet hit us. For those reasons, I support absolutely and without reservation resolutions A to G in Councillor Purdo Haran's coronavirus response motion. But when it comes to the vote, Mr. Mayor, and I've lost the picture of John, I hope he's still there somewhere. Maybe someone can record us. When it comes to the vote, Mr. Mayor, as a matter of procedure, I believe that we should really be voting in each of those clauses A through to I in turn, because only in that way can we as a body of councillors and the public who are listening fully understand the position that councillors are adopting. Furthermore, I'm formally asking for a recorded vote on each of the items, and I'm sorry that it might take some procedural time to do that, but I do think it's important to disaggregate a lot of the points in this motion. I don't think we can just accept the whole thing as a blanket. So whilst I'm in favour of accepting clauses A to G and will be voting in that way, I do have some deep concerns about clauses H and I, which are the clauses that Councillor Purdo Haran has put in place to create his resilience subcommittee. I believe strongly that that subcommittee is functionally unnecessary, but more than that, I believe that it's anti-democratic and unnecessarily opaque. I'll explain why shortly, but before I do that, sadly, I have to bore some members of the public with some technical detail about how this council works, and I hope that you will bear with me on that. Bingham Town Council is governed by a set of standing orders that we as councillors agreed at our inaugural meeting, and it's got the following structure. At the top of the council, there's full council. Full council is the ultimate decision-making body of Bingham Town Council unless it delegates that decision-making function to an executive committee sitting below that level. All 14 councillors sit in full council and collectively take almost all of the key decisions of council on behalf of the people of Bingham. The exception is the Planning Committee. Full Council meets in public, as we're doing this evening, and below Full Council sits 4 standing committees: Policy and Resource, Committee on Environment, Recreation and Amenities, and Planning. Of those 4 standing committees, all except Planning are advisory committees, which means that they make recommendations to Full Council, and it's the full council of 14, which decides whether to accept or reject that recommendation. Full Council meets in public, and so do the standing committees of Bingham Town Council. They meet in public. So up until this point, the public looks through a glass wall to see the machinery of government in action, and that is important. That's crucial for good governance. Standing committees can create subcommittees, and that's where it starts to get a bit opaque. Subcommittees do not need to meet in public. They sit behind closed doors and they meet in private. Now, that's not necessarily sinister, because subcommittees report to standing committees, which meet in public. Standing committees advise Full Council, which meets in public, and Full Council decides in public. However, Councillor Purdah-Haran's proposal places the Decisions Committee below the Policy and Resource Committee, which is advisory. So the decision-making process should be that which I have set out, publicly visible and open to challenge by Full Committee. And yet the Resilience Committee appears to have executive powers delegated from a 14-man Full Council deciding in public to a 7-man subcommittee deciding in private. How will that subcommittee be authorised to undertake its functions, and if Full Committee cannot interfere with those decisions before they're executed? How does that comply with the democratic imperative and need for the transparency that must drive every level of government, from the smallest to the greatest? Councillor Purdah-Haran claims that this committee is necessary to support existing committees between business. Why is that needed now? We have functioned through long-standing arrangements which will not change despite the virus. Between Full Council meetings currently, the proper officer of Bingham Town Council works with her colleagues who are employed by Bingham Town Council to put into the effect the decisions taken by Full Council. And when they do that, they work with the mayor, and they work with the deputy mayor, and they work with the senior councillors to make sure that council business is done effectively. Now, if heaven forbid anything should happen to the town clerk or any other member of council or anyone who's employed by council, the procedures already exist to fill those positions if she or any other member of council staff moves on. And that can be done quickly without the need of the Resilience Committee. If necessary, it can be done by an emergency Full Council meeting, as has happened tonight. This adds nothing to our structure. So let's look a wee bit at the legislation that Councillor Purdah-Haran mentioned, the snappily titled the Local Authorities and Police and Crime Panels Coronavirus Flexibility of Local Authority and Police and Crime Panel Meetings, England and Wales Regulation 2002, and it was enacted on the 4th of April. I'm not going to analyse this clause by clause, as Councillor Purdah-Haran invited me to do the other evening. Suffice it to say that we need only concern ourselves with the intentions of Parliament in passing that legislation. And we can get that from the Ministry of Housing, Communities and Local Government's website and the Minister himself. Local Government Secretary, the Right Honourable Robert Jenrick MP, said, "Local authorities are the backbone of our democracy and are playing a vital role in the national effort to keep people safe. This change will support them to do that while maintaining the transparency we expect in local decision making." I'm going to say that again, that second sentence. This change will support them to do that while maintaining the transparency we expect in local decision making. The Minister did not say that in this time of crisis we'll recommend that councils delegate the powers of Full Council and place it in the hands of a bizarrely created subcommittee of councillors who will meet where and when they like in private and will have the powers to choose amongst themselves who will sit in that committee, to appoint council employees, temporary and permanent, enter into new council contracts, cancel meetings, spend public funds, and do all of that behind closed doors. That is not democratic and it is not transparent. It's not the way that Bingham Town Council should be making decisions. And it's important, and I will stress this once again, Bingham Town Council has to make decisions to protect the people of Bingham. And nothing I'm seeing in here changes that fundamental principle. The government have put in place all the necessary measures to allow us to carry on doing the work that we do in this time of crisis, collectively, as a body, and in the full gaze of the public, and if they want to look at it, the press too. Councillors, there is absolutely nothing wrong. There is absolutely nothing that this Resilience Committee being set up can do that you cannot do already. But there are two key differences. Full council allows you to participate fully in council decisions by council decision making and to fulfil the promises that you made to the people of Bingham when you were elected. It ensures that whatever you do is done in the full sight of those same people. Councillor Purda Haran's completely unnecessary proposal denies you and the people both of those rights. Please don't vote in party lines tonight. This really isn't about party lines. Support the machinery of government and the people of Bingham that we were all here and elected to represent. Please, please, please support clauses A through to G, but oppose clause H and clause I. Thank you.
Right, well, we've had a long speech in favour and a long speech with a different opinion. I remind in standing orders that people who aren't speaking to present the motion are limited to 5 minutes each. So it's one speech each, and there are supposed to be 5 minutes each. Town Clerk, you wish to speak?
Yes, please, if I may. In terms of the proposal in front of us, A through to I believe that we do need to take each line separately so it's not duplicitous. So I think we need to vote on each item, would be my recommendation to council. Also in regard to proposing to cancel the annual town meeting, that's actually not within our gift to cancel it should 6 electors wish to advertise a town meeting. And also with regard to the 6-month rule, that should not apply because people still have a right to come on and attend virtual meetings. I would also like some more information when we go through each item. Point I, number 1, with regard to appoint proper officers and a responsible financial officer from the employees who are available to work. I'd like more clarification around that. And point I8, to approve additional councillors to sign cheques and orders for payment as required. That actually needs to be a full council decision as required by our bank. And they're the points that I would like to make. Thank you.
Could I have a quick word? 2 seconds.
So Councillor Leach is indicating you wish the next person you wish to speak.
Just to let everybody know, the latest that's come through, Boris has left intensive care.
Thank you very much for that. That was Councillor Leach speaking. Do we have any other speakers? No. Anybody? You're all muted.
Yeah. Yeah, me, please, Gemma.
Sorry, Councillor Sims has indicated she was to speak.
Yeah, can you hear me? Is that okay?
Yeah, we can hear you.
I would just like people to know that this is a really, really pinnacle point, that if we give this control over or this control gets taken, I am a Conservative and I was outed from the Conservatives because I decided to go against the group
So I just want people to be reminded that this is very dangerous what is being said here. And with regards to emails, this was from many different people, and it wasn't just who some think it was, but people are too scared to say what is really going on, and that's what I'd like to say.
All right, thank you very much. Councillor Lewis.
Yes, I did say earlier that I would like to speak as well. Unfortunately, I muted myself by mistake. May I say that I support generally what Councillor Wallace has said completely, but I would also say that I have received another document called Coronavirus Response, drawn up, I think, by yourself, Mr. Mayor, which I understood to be yet another form of the motion, but now I understand it isn't. It's just your explanatory notes that you're going to speak to. But I would notice that at the end it says conclusion. Motion is to prioritise council services, help the community, amend public gatherings, stop councillors being disqualified from council, enable the delivery of council priorities, decisions and policies when staff and contractors are unavailable due to sickness or death, enable payments to be made when staff and councillors are unable due to sickness or death, record and review actions taken. Now, I could be, I think, forgiven for thinking that that was actually a motion to pass a revised resolution, and there's nothing in there about creating a 7-man subcommittee or awarding that subcommittee the whole powers, effectively the full powers of Bingham Town Council. And I would also like to say that there is very much in that document that I very much support, especially the item called help the community. So I would conclude by saying that, like Councillor Wallace, I have no issue with items A to G in the original motion, but I have many issues with H to I. That's it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Do we have anybody, other councillors wishing to speak? You need to unmute yourself and say your name.
Yes, Jane Costello.
And not a councillor, Jane.
You said anybody not a councillor.
No, I said anybody.
Like to comment at one point.
I didn't say. I think your questions and comments from members of the public are available on item number 3. So, is there anybody who is a councillor? Just to be absolutely clear, if you need to unmute. And
yes, John, I'd like to, please.
But you've already spoken, Councillor Leach. Are you speaking? Is this relating specifically to this point? Yes.
Yes, it is. It's
right,
not the Boris one. That was just news. I agree with what Tony said all the way down the line. I do not think we need another subcommittee. That is very, very dangerous when you give control over to certain people. And I'm not tit for tat, and I'm not taking sides whether you're Conservative, Labour, Independent like myself, we do not need another committee. We are grown-ups. We are capable of making our own minds up without being told what to say. And therefore, this town council should show its mettle and just stick with the basics. It's the people of Bingham that we need to be thinking of, and each other, not who can be on what committee this and what committee that. Thank you.
Right. Okay, anybody else wish to speak? You have to, as a councillor, you have to unmute and say your name as a councillor then. No? Right, well.
Mr Mayor.
Mr Councillor Purdue-Horan.
Do I have a right of reply?
You have a right of reply, and then we're moving to the vote because we're moving up to 8 o'clock when it's now going to be stopping for clap for NHS. So hopefully we can get through all these votes as soon as possible. But you have the right to reply.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I won't keep you long. I don't think we need to have votes on each item. The motion is before us. It's been fairly clear, and I move A to I as one motion. I wish to reassure those councillors who've spoken against, in particular, points H to I, that we're only talking about, well, hopefully a few weeks, maybe 2 or 3 months, and then we sort of go back to normal. And like snow, it may actually melt away. Who knows? I realise the legislation is going on till May 2021, but let's hope that you know, that really is just Whitehall playing safe. So I'd like to reassure members that you know, this is just to assist business and not to create business, as it were. On the item 8, I8, to approve additional councillors to sign cheques. I'd be very surprised if, well, I'd be surprised if we have to use that, but if we did, then it would be important, obviously, to do the right procedures through the bank and ensure that any, you know, contractors entitled to payment were able to receive payment in good time. But I think that would be a worst case scenario to actually have to add additional signatories, as I think we have a few at the moment, so we should be okay. So I move it, Mr Mayor. Right,
that's one block. Right, we have a motion before us, it's been validly seconded. We now move to the vote.
May I ask Mr Mayor, there was an alternative proposal put forward by Councillor Leach, which was supported by the town clerk and myself,
really?
which
okay.
was that the items in the motion be taken one by one and not en bloc. Now, it seems to me that that amounts to an amendment which should be allowed to be proposed.
So you're saying that moving them individually as items is an amendment, and you want to have a vote on whether or not we move them individually as items?
Sorry.
Yes.
Right.
Sorry, could I just make a point as proper officer? It's not very often I get my Charles Arnold Baker out of local council administration, but I'm going to quote from chapter 7.27 on duplicity, and it states, a resolution should not deal with more than one subject, and where a resolution combining more than one subject is moved, the chairman should require the mover to separate the component parts and move them one by one.
Indeed. And all of the motion relates to one subject, which is dealing with the coronavirus pandemic. So the motion, the amendment vote is to...
Mr. Mayor, I don't think that's correct at all. There are...
You said it is.
Well, in fact, it's not correct at all. It's quite clear that clauses A through to G are significantly different in their effect than clauses H and I. H and I changes the structure of Bingham Town Council. Clauses A through to G set up procedures to make sure that we deal with the virus. I think it's quite clear that clauses H and I are significantly different from the 6 clauses which precede that. Okay, so standing orders say on a point of order, its chairman's word is final, and I've said that A to G are dealing with the coronavirus pandemic, and H and I on how to implement A to G to address the coronavirus pandemic. So it's one subject of discussion. But allow you to have a vote on separating each item into a separate vote. It'll just prolong matters if we do.
Well, it's only fair.
Okay, well, thank you for that comment. So we now move to the vote then on the amendment moved by Councillor Lewis and seconded by Councillor Leach. We have a vote on each item. Can we go to the names, please, Clark, or do you wish me to do it?
Sorry, I'd muted myself there. Right. Councillor Best. Councillor Best?
Do you want to vote on each item, Councillor Best, or do you want to vote on the whole thing? Appears she's been lost. Can we move to the next name then, and we'll come back to Councillor Best if we can.
Right, Councillor Leach.
I've forgotten what I'm voting for now. What I said, I would like each one voted on.
Right, so you're saying 4 to vote for each item.
Yep.
Next
4.
councillor, please.
Councillor Lewis.
4.
Councillor Molney.
Against.
Councillor Mosque.
Against.
Councillor Purdue-Horan.
Against.
Councillor Shelton.
Andrew, you've got to unmute yourself, Andrew.
Against.
Okay.
Councillor Sims.
Councillor Sims, you have to unmute yourself before speaking.
Oh yeah, I do, but obviously it's not working very well. I'm saying I'm not shocked already at the vote. This is signs to come, but I'm going to vote that I want 4 for it to be individually done.
Okay, next councillor.
Councillor Stapleton. Against, sorry.
Yep.
Councillor John Stockwood.
Against.
Councillor Maureen Stockwood.
Against.
Councillor Tony Wallace.
For.
Councillor Williams.
Against.
Okay, so if Councillor Best is calling in through Deputy Clerk, the Deputy Clerk needs to unmute for us to hear Councillor Best.
I'm just unmuting now.
Okay.
Jane, do you want to shout your vote?
Yes, I am doing. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Councillor Best, against.
Okay. Thank you, Councillor Best. So all councillors have now voted. The majority are against. So we now move to the substantive vote, which is all items to be taken together.
Mr. Mayor, I think now is the time for us to have a break.
Yes.
I agree.
Okay. Right, well, before we go to the substantive vote, then we're now pausing the meeting to clap for the NHS. I'll see you in about 10 minutes. Thank you very much.
Try half an hour.
I'm sorry?
Try half an hour, because our street, everybody's out.
It's 10 minutes and we'll be back at 8:05. Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah, goes on a bit, mind.
Yeah.
So we're going outside to clap, are we?
I suppose Robin's Just can't appreciate it. Get the babies off bed.
Morning, Maureen.
Good evening. Again.
Can we start saying when we've returned? Councillor MS and JS is back. Councillor Wallace is returned. Councillor Leach has returned. Councillor Lewis has returned.
I'm here, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Money
Councillor Money, sorry.
Councillor Money has returned.
Moscow's here.
Councillor Moscow's here.
Councillor Williams.
Councillor Williams. Councillor Shelton.
Councillor Purdue-Horan.
Councillor FPH. WPS is here. Have all the councillors no, Councillor Sims.
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, so all councillors I think have returned. Clerk and Deputy Clerk.
Deputy Clerk's here.
Yeah.
Councillor Best returned.
Councillor Best is on the phone and can hear you.
Excellent. Well, there we go. I think everybody's either has indicated that they're available to participate in the meeting as a member of the committee, and thank you for taking that short break for clapping for the NHS. Can we now continue with the rest of the meeting? I believe we're on the vote on the substantive motion of the first item of the agenda. So can we now have the votes in favour of the motion agreeing actions in response to the coronavirus pandemic?
Councillor Best.
Councillor Best, do you want to vote, please?
I vote yes. For.
Thank you very much, Councillor Best.
Councillor Leach.
I'm abstaining.
Abstain. Next one.
Councillor Lewis.
Unmute before voting, please.
Yes, I have. Against.
Councillor Money.
For.
Councillor Moscow.
For.
Councillor Purdue-Horan.
For.
Councillor Shelton.
For.
Councillor Sims.
I'm not surprised at the vote again, but this Conservative is against.
Councillor Stapleton.
For.
Councillor John Stockwood.
For.
Councillor Maureen Stockwood.
For.
Councillor Wallace.
Against.
Councillor Williams.
For.
Thank you, councillors.
So the majority of councillors were in favour, and that motion is now passed. Is that correct?
Yep.
Yes,
Yeah.
Councillor
Okay.
John Stockwood.
Right, we now move on to the rest of the agenda. Apologies for absence. I believe we've had apologies from Councillor Bird, who's the only councillor not currently present, and apologies have been given. So we accept those apologies.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, Mr. Mayor, my apologies, but could I just raise a point of clarification, if you don't mind?
Councillor Wallace.
The subcommittee does allow for a non-conservative, I won't use opposition, a non.
Yep.
How does the meeting? How does council feel it's going to fill that post?
Happy to let you discuss with the other non-conservative councillors which one of the councillors want to put the name forward, and you'll be, whoever that is, will be happy to attend once you've indicated to the clerk. Okay.
Thank you, Mr.
So do we need to go through all the names if we're accepting the apologies for absence?
No.
Clerk?
No.
No.
The clerk, excuse me. Do you want us to go through every?
It would be very useful, just because this is the first meeting, and
okay.
I'll zip through it if I may.
Okay.
Right.
We're all in favour of accepting the apologies. Sorry, but I mean, sorry, call the name, sorry.
Sorry, Councillor Best.
In favour.
Was that an okay?
Yeah, that's
Yes,
a
I
favour.
was in favour, yeah.
Yeah. Councillor Leach.
Yes.
Councillor Lewis.
Yes.
Councillor Money.
Yes.
Councillor Moskwa.
Yep.
Councillor Purdue-Horan.
Yes.
Councillor Shelton.
Yes.
Councillor Sims.
Yes.
Councillor Stapleton.
Yeah. Yes.
Councillor John Stockwood.
Yes.
Councillor
Four.
Maureen Stockwood.
Yes.
Councillor Wallace.
Yes.
Councillor Williams.
Yes.
Thank you very much, councillors. Apologies accepted for Councillor Bird.
Okay. Declarations of interest. It's to receive any declarations of interest. You just have to say them if you've got them. Anybody?
Councillor Williams.
Councillor Williams.
Just like to make a declaration of interest in anything relating to the Win Hill site, due to being a coach down at the rugby club. For how long and when I will be one, I don't know.
Right, okay.
Thank you.
Councillor Moskwa, as chair of Bingham Community Parks project, anything to do with Compan and the Wychwood Road play area.
Right, okay, thank you very much.
John.
Councillor Lewis.
Yeah.
Anything in relation to capital grants, in particular that's applied for by Bombers Skateboarding CIC.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor?
Councillor Leach?
Do I have to do the same as John because I'm on Bombers?
If you feel that's appropriate, it's each
Yeah, I
councillor
think
to
it
make a
would
choice,
be.
but yeah, okay.
I think it would be.
Right, okay. Well, we'll put you down for Bombers then. Any other councillors? Oh, excellent. Now move on to the next item on the agenda, which is questions and comments from members of the public. So now we have the opportunity for the guests to take it in turns to ask a question or make a comment. So can we just have, Jane and Jim is indicating they wish to speak. I think Phil Drabble is indicating perhaps he wishes to speak. I don't know if anybody else actually wishes to speak, but we'll start with Jane and Jim then.
Right, Jane first. First of all, okay. I'm very sad to have seen the way that motion was carried just now. I think that's very sad for the democracy in Bingham. I think that's another step in the wrong direction. But my question is, the council spent £4,500 on a staffing review about a year ago. You also promised the residents of Bingham a long stay car park since probably the year dot. Can I ask what progress, if any, has been made on either of those projects? Thank you.
Well, we'll continue to progress those projects. Unfortunately, at the moment, many things have been delayed by the coronavirus pandemic. The next question.
Can I just ask, have you actually debated those subjects lately?
We're currently having a problem getting meetings together, and we've actually had new regulations allowing us to have virtual meetings. So hopefully now that virtual meetings are in place, we'll have lots of opportunities to discuss subjects.
That, Mr. Mayor, is a total cop-out.
Oh, thank you for your comments. The next person who wishes to speak is, I think, Phil Drabble, is it?
Yes, thank you. Councillor Purdue-Horan rightly praised the work of volunteers in Bingham. There are a number of groups who are doing sterling work at the present point in time. What I'm interested to know is how the town council are operating strategically to ensure that those groups work as effectively as they can.
Okay. So, briefly, In the response to any emergency is organised by a local resilience forum, which is operated at a county-wide level. That's led by the police in association with the county council and the emergency services. The local resilience forum works through a number of cells, and the cells each have different roles and are led by different organisations. Rushcliffe Borough Council is particularly leading on some of those, county councillors leading on others, and it's the county council who operates the community hub, where all public communication is directed as well. With regards to the local work from the local councils, an example of the sort of project that we could be working on, or we're hoping to work on now, we've got the Resilience Committee, is explained on the front page of the Newark Advertiser this week. It shows how what's happening briefly is that the SHIELD scheme, the NHS scheme for the clinically vulnerable, is sending out letters to all households, and there's about 7,000 of those going out across Nottinghamshire. But there is an additional local scheme where Rushcliffe Borough Council has used the council tax information along with other sources of information to try and identify additional locally identified vulnerable people who are not just the clinically vulnerable identified by the NHS. There are approximately 4,000 across Rushcliffe, and it's projected that perhaps 10% of those don't have any support in place. So what we're looking to do, hopefully, with the Resilience Committee is to bring together the different elements that are available within Bingham, the network of volunteers from the Bingham Helping Hands, perhaps the market manager, market traders for produce, and put together a scheme which enhances the local scheme from Rushcliffe Borough Council, which will provide food aid to the locally identified vulnerable people. And we could enhance it with additional money that we've just voted in favour of in terms of the humanitarian aid that the council is now offering to provide. So now that we've made that decision as a town council, there's an opportunity for Rushcliffe Borough councillors, Rushcliffe officers will now coordinate all those organisations as the local cell within the local resilience forum, and they will drive forward, hopefully bringing everybody together to use all the resources together to enhance the offer that's made and support that's given to the identified vulnerable people. So there was some discussion going on. It's recognised that, unfortunately, we haven't yet got to the point where that scheme is all put together. There are elements of it in Bingham, and we respect each of the elements of what people are doing individually. But there is now an opportunity with the town council's funding to bring all of that together, and hopefully we can have a scheme that's really focused on helping locally identified vulnerable people who do not have a support network set up yet. And it's very important, and that's why we've been trying to have these meetings, that we get that moving forward. Everybody from government down to parish councils is trying to work as quickly as possible to get systems in place. It's clear that there's been some delays, but the letters have gone out to locally identified vulnerable people from Rushcliffe Borough Council in the last few days, and hopefully we can now start to work together to put in a scheme that keeps in contact with everybody that needs support at this difficult time.
Okay, that sounds like a step in the right direction. Who will actually do that in the town council, and what is your time frame for that?
I am desperately trying to move it forward as fast as possible. Within the local resilience forum, it's important that we keep the structure in place, and we in an emergency we don't want people to move to different lines of communication and out of sequence. So within the local resilience forum, the cell leader is an officer at Rushcliffe Borough Council. So it will be an officer at Rushcliffe Borough Council who is coordinating the local community efforts. They get information back from when you call the county council, a member of the public or community group offering to help. They go to the county council. That is then the information you give to the community hub at the county council. There's been put into an electronic system which the local community cell organizer is able to access, and he is bringing all these elements together. The element that we've just voted on tonight is making the town council saying we are available to put forward our resources And so now hopefully we can talk to the cell officer about moving that forward. Is that okay?
Yeah, I understand that. I think that what people at Bingham, well, I can only speak for myself, but I do speak to other people, what they're looking for is clear strategic leadership from the town council. You are the local leaders of this community, and they want to see you also operationally, working operationally, and they would like to see you being more visible in terms of volunteering and so on, because that's what I believe that you should be doing. I fully accept a lot of, and I understand the need for somebody talked about orderly governance and so on. That is really important. And I think this meeting is a real step in the right direction. But I think, you know, on a day-to-day basis, people want to know that you and the other councillors are leading at a local level this fight against the coronavirus.
We have done everything we can to make this meeting come about and put forward to make a resolution that puts forward the council's resources. Unfortunately, we are in a position that we're not allowed out of the house myself at the moment much. Yeah. So I know I volunteered to help Helping Hands to distribute leaflets before the lockdown began, but you know, many of us are having to stay in our homes at the moment. As soon as that's changed, I would love to be out on the streets helping and supporting the vulnerable, but unfortunately that's not possible according to the government guidelines at the current time.
Okay. Can I just add a few words, Mr. Mayor?
Is it absolutely essential?
Councillor Purdy-Horan, I just want to acknowledge the tremendous work and rapid turnarounds by you know, members of staff at Notts County Council and Rushcliffe Borough Council to respond to the situation that we've been in. And I want to note your involvement, Mr. Mayor, and Councillor Gareth Williams, who have been liaising with Rushcliffe Borough Council in particular. And just to mention myself as County Councillor for Bingham East Division and County Councillor Neil Clark, we have been the link with County Hall. So in terms of having a local link at strategic level, Bingham Town Council is well served, and of course our colleagues on the Town Council will now be able to get stuck in and to assist the community.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Do you have any other members of the public? Jennifer Kay is identified. Would you like to ask a question or make a comment?
A bit of both. So I want to first of all actually thank Councillor Wallace for bringing up the issue of transparency with regards to the subcommittee mentioned about the coronavirus pandemic and its impact on local democracy. I want to express my disappointment in that regard, and the fact that since it is to do with the transparency, the fact that this was then moved ahead of public comments, stopping us from being able to make our comments prior to the council making a vote on it, I do find it very disappointing. And following that, I was obviously very disappointed by the fact that this then got passed.
Okay.
I do wish to ask, because it mentions about certain temporary measures, but also potentially some permanent ones, and I want to ask: is it going to be a case that any decisions made by this subcommittee are on a temporary basis, following, prior to a full council meeting approving it on a more permanent basis if necessary?
The motion delegates from the council to the subcommittee for making decisions, but the decisions that it makes are in terms of affecting employee roles, etc., are all temporary in the sense that they are measures necessary to support periods when staff are sick. As explained during the debate, as far as I'm aware, these are all measures designed to cope with staff being sick and not being able to take work. It's not an attempt to make it alter anybody's permanent position, as far as I'm aware. So I'm not aware of any permanent changes to any employee role. Okay. Do you want to come back at all?
No, I'm okay, thank you.
All right. Elizabeth Hutchinson.
Yeah, obviously I'm part of Bingham Helping Hands. Can you hear me?
Mm-hmm. Hello, Elizabeth.
Hi. What my concern is that Bingham Town Council have put this new strategy in place, but actually you would then need to go to Rushcliffe and Nottingham County Council to actually have a chain with them, because they're actually the deciding bodies of what gets implemented and how it all works. So is there any need for this third level within the coronavirus strategy plan from Bingham Townsend? I get the £25,000 to help business and local people, that's great. But what Phil was basically asking is, who is his point of contact? Who does he personally go to? There needs to be one person that people who are trying to help the community can go to.
So the information that I'm aware of is that members of the public and community groups that want to help members of the public all communicate through the Nottinghamshire County Council Community Hub. There is an officer at Rushcliffe Borough Council who is the local community cell leader, and I understand that once the County Council explains to them what we're offering to do in terms of help, there is knowledge within the local cell around what Newark and Sherwood and Newark Town Council have been doing. So as soon as we make this decision, we can contact the Borough Council to let them know, and then that person will be arranging the community response in that way.
Yeah, but
so
is that
hopefully,
person's details going to be given to people like Phil? Because I think I may be wrong, but I think the other organisations like Rosie May need a contact number and a name.
Okay. That person is going to bring together all the resources to hopefully work together. So yes, he will contact each organisation. I don't know Mr. Drabble's role within in an organisation. So, but there will be contact with each organisation through the channels that the organisation has said they can be contacted through for the community hub. So I don't think every member of the public should be talking to the local cell officer. Every member of the public should be talking to one place, which is the County Council Community Hub. And they then distribute information to the correct cell, depending on what the members of the public are asking about. So a general member of the public would contact the main community line, which has been widely published, and we must keep pushing the same number and keep people away from scams and other sources of less reliable information. But when it comes back, it's going to come back through the local resource resilience forum. Will pass the information down to the local cell officer, who should be contacting each organisation. And then if you are the person at the top of that organisation who is the contact details for that organisation, he will be in contact with you, as far as I'm aware. So I'm looking for him to do the work, because ultimately many of us are housebound at the moment, I'm afraid.
Can I just add that I am a volunteer with the Rosie May Foundation, but I do work closely with Elizabeth, as does the CEO and other volunteers. What Elizabeth and I want to see, and I'm sure other people do, including people in the business community, like Nigel at the townhouse. We want to do the right thing, but we need somebody to get an overview of what is happening, so that the support that's going in, and there's loads of support going in, is put in place in a coherent way, so that we know that the certain people don't fall through the net. That's the concern. So we need somebody to have that, to give us we can do our own thing, but it's not about doing your own thing, is it? It's about somebody having an overview and maybe directing us where the need is greatest. So we work in a joined up way. That's our concern.
Yes, it's just as my understanding is, it's the community cell for our area needs to be coordinating what goes on, and it's their role to do that. And it's I just repeat the point that in an emergency we must work through the separate arrangements, so that we don't have different lines of communication and different which causes problems of its own. The cell leader will be informed at the Borough Council of what we've done, and then that person should be contacting you all and bringing it all together, for a local Bingham's response. I understand everybody's frustration that it hasn't happened yet. This local schemes, the NHS scheme has taken some time to get the letters out. The local schemes have had doing their best to get the letters for local people on top of the NHS scheme out as fast as can. Everybody from government to right down to everybody is just trying as best as they can to move as fast as they can, because we do all recognise the vulnerabilities that are may be left very isolated at this time. And we just, all I can assure people is everybody is working as hard as they can to get this together. And I know it looks like it's just one distant website, but I assure you, all the cells, you've got the mortuaries are being built up, the extra capacity, the NHS stuff is being delivered out today, the business support grants are going out, and there's a lot of extra calls at the Borough Council right now about benefits and universal credit and such like. Big changes are happening to the Borough Council's finances and projects, and all I can assure you is that at every level, and including in Bingham, I don't want to, I haven't mentioned much about Bingham, but the Town Council has very much looked at its processes around the cemetery and making sure that we've got, we're making these changes to trying to make sure that we've got resources available so that we can put stuff into where it's needed for keeping the cemetery running at this very difficult time. I am sorry that not everything has yet been put in place as quickly as people want, but I assure you, there is a lot of things happening behind the scenes. Testing stations being set up, new centres and regarding PPE and local businesses creating those. Each cell of the response working as hard as they can to get everything in place that needed to for the nation and all our communities to work together to face this pandemic. And so I can't really offer anything more at this time. Do we have any other guests who want to speak?
I would like to say something.
Jim, I believe Jane and Jim. Yeah.
Yeah. I was horrified when I saw the agenda item for this evening. I agree entirely with what Councillor Wallace said, and I think that this Resilience Committee is not only completely unnecessary, but it is a shameful, outrageous power grab by a handful of people who all live in the same household to consolidate the entire ability and resources of Bingham Council into the hands of that handful of people. I think all those councillors who voted for this tonight should be utterly ashamed of themselves for stealing democracy from the people of Bingham. You will never be forgiven for this. I think you have been behaved despicably. Thank you.
I think we've made important choices to make resources available to help vulnerable people. Okay, we've now finished the public session and we move on. Oh, sorry, there's a Steve. A guest called Steve.
Yeah, good evening.
Are you indicating you wish to speak?
Yes, good evening. I echo the thoughts of some other people who have spoken already, with regard to the appendix, the coronavirus resilience committee, the Magnificent Seven, who will be meeting clandestinely without the presence of any. Can I ask, on the assumption that you will be using technology,
I'm sorry, you said obviously we're using technology and then I can't hear you anymore.
So you'll be using technology to meet, similar to what we've used this evening, unless, of course, like, as the previous speaker said, you all do live in the same house. So will you be recording it the same way as
the normal method of recording the decisions of a subcommittee are to take written minutes, recording each written decision. So
say that again?
The normal method of recording the decisions of a subcommittee is to take minutes and they are written minutes writing down each decision made. So there should be a written record of whatever this subcommittee does. So there will be a written record of the decisions made. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Right. I believe that covers all of the guests. And now we move on with the business.
John, sorry, I've got two comments, please, from members of the public.
Okay.
Yeah.
Clark has got comments from members of the public.
We are one of the victims on Western Avenue who were flooded in November 2019 and again in February 2020. Are Bingham Town Council aware that Network Rail have not cleared the dike behind us as they claim they have? Pictures were posted on Facebook by Francis Purdue Horan showing clearance of one tree and the cutting back of the brambles on the 21st of February 2020. Network Rail claimed to have carried out the required work needed in a few hours. The clearance promised using machinery has not materialised. Given the current situation, will Bingham Town Council please not forget about the victims on Western Avenue?
Okay, thank you very much.
Mr. Mayor, I've got some news.
Right, is the other point as well about Western Avenue, or is it a different point? Because we know that there's I believe Councillor Purdue Horan is going to explain that there's a meeting being offered by Network Rail, I believe. So, Councillor Purdue Horan, do you want to give the response to the Western Avenue issue?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, Robert Jenrick has arranged for Network Rail to meet with residents of Western Avenue at some time in the future, hopefully not too distant future, but obviously he's disappointed that we can't do it within a matter of a few weeks. But Network Rail have committed themselves to meeting with Western Avenue residents to progress further work. I did take pictures of work that had been sent, workers that had been sent for an emergency clearance, but they also admitted that what they were doing was not in itself sufficient for the future. So there is still much to discuss, and Robert Jenrick didn't forget anything and has secured a meeting at some time, obviously to be agreed.
Okay, because face-to-face meetings are a bit of a problem at the moment. There was a second comment from the member of the public, Clark.
Oh yes, this is from another residence. I have read the agenda and minutes of the last meeting. I wonder if the papers which would be available relating to the recent committee meetings could be forwarded. Nothing about this meeting appears on BTC website. Has the meeting been properly convened? My wife and I are at-risk persons due to age and infirmity and therefore have not been able to read public announcement boards. There is a rumour that the powers of the council may be subsumed into a small group of councillors, 3 of whom live in the same house. My legal brain queries whether this is constitutionally allowable or necessary. All but 1 town councillor has internet access and all accessible on the phone. Indeed, with lockdown, you and the town clerk know more than normally where your councillors are. Although I can email and search the websites, my IT skills at my age preclude me from joining the meeting on Thursday. Should the rumour be true, please would you be kind enough to forward a copy of the amended standing orders for my further consideration. Please acknowledge receipt of this email and confirm that its contents will be put to the meeting at the appropriate time.
Yep, the meeting was legally called. Mr. Bair's concerns are noted. Okay, we've now completed questions and comments from members of the public, and having reached the 4th item on the agenda, and that is to approve and sign the minutes of the 21st of January 2020. Do I have any speakers regarding the minutes? Anybody want to move them?
I move them.
Okay, Councillor Shelton moves the minutes of the 21st of January 2020, and I'll second it. Anybody wish to speak to the minutes? No. We now move to the vote. Do we need an independent vote on every item, Clerk, please?
Is anybody against the minutes being signed?
Oh.
No.
I think it's going to be easier. I know it's laborious, but you know, if I go through individually, at least it is transparent and clear. So I'll quickly flick through. It didn't take long last time. So
Okay.
Councillor Best.
Councillor Best, are you for the minutes being signed?
Vote yes.
Yes.
Councillor Leach.
Yes.
Councillor Lewis.
Yes.
Councillor Money.
Yeah.
Councillor Moscow.
Yes.
Councillor Purdue-Haran.
Yes.
Councillor Shelton.
Yes.
Councillor Sims.
Yes, and you're doing a wonderful job, Sharon.
Thank you, Councillor Sims. Councillor Stapleton.
It's like Eurovision, isn't it?
Councillor Stapleton. Did I hear a faint yes?
Yes.
I saw that, Gemma.
Yes.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
Councillor John Stockwood.
Yes. 4.
Councillor Maureen Stockwood.
Yes, 4.
Councillor Wallace.
Yes.
Councillor Williams.
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you very much. They can be signed when we, without release.
Oh, that's good. There you go. Item number 5, the second set of minutes, to approve and sign the minutes of the 18th of February 2020 extraordinary meeting. I move them. Does anybody want to second them?
I'll second them.
Councillor Lewis seconds them. Does anybody wish to speak to the minutes of the 18th of February 2020?
Is that the one where I was away in London?
Read now.
Does it matter?
No, you were there, Councillor Leach.
Oh, that's all right then.
Okay. Well, thank you for that point. Anybody else wish to speak to the minutes? No, then we move to the vote then.
Councillor Best.
Yes, sorry, you couldn't hear. Yes, 4.
Thank you. Councillor Leach.
Yes.
Councillor Lewis.
Yes.
Councillor Money.
4.
Councillor Moscow.
Yeah.
Councillor Purdue-Haran.
Yes. 4.
Councillor Shelton.
4.
Councillor Sims.
Jerry, you're doing a wonderful job. Yes, 4.
Councillor Stapleton.
Yes.
Oh, very broken. Councillor John Stockwood.
4, I think. Yeah, 4, definitely.
Councillor.
Where's my chocolate bar?
Councillor Maureen Stockwood.
4. Sorry, somebody else spoke over me.
Yeah.
David's got some advice on.
Councillor Wallace.
4.
Councillor Williams.
4.
Thank you.
We now move to the Mayor's announcements. Since the last Mayor's announcements, the Mayor has attended the following: Wednesday the 12th of February, Bingham Care Home groundbreaking ceremony. Wednesday the 20th of February, Bingham Town Council Civic Awards, which was enjoyed by all. Today is Maundy Thursday, and the Archbishop of Canterbury reminds us that this is the day when we remember the Last Supper, when Jesus commanded his disciples to love and serve one another, and that it is this night he would know the fear of dying alone as he prayed in the Garden of Gethsemane. On behalf of Bingham Town Council, I thank everyone in the NHS, carers and key workers, and the members of Bingham Helping Hands, and all those whose efforts are serving our community during the pandemic. And on behalf of the Town Council, I give our sincerest condolences to all those who have suffered and lost family, friends and loved ones in these difficult times. Thank you. Now move item 7, committee minutes. The first the first minutes to receive and resolve to approve the recommendations from the following meetings. The first are recreation and amenities. Councillor Williams, do you want to move these and take any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, I do. Everybody should have had a copy of them. There is some recommendations within the draft minutes, but unfortunately, because of other events that have happened, I suspect that we haven't really been able to progress many of these since the meeting took place. So I move the minutes as read. Thank you.
Okay, I'll second them. Any speakers to the minutes on the Recreation and Amenities Committee of the 4th of February 2020? Anybody?
Nothing from me.
Excellent. So we move all of the recommendations in that committee minutes. All those in favour? Can we go through the names, please?
Yeah. Councillor Best.
Yes, for.
Councillor Leach.
Yes, for.
Councillor Lewis.
Yes, for.
Councillor Moni.
Yes, for.
Councillor Mosquer.
Yes, for.
Councillor Purdue-Haran. Councillor Purdue-Haran.
Sorry, yes, 4.
Councillor Shelton.
4.
Councillor Sims.
5.
Pardon?
5.
5.
Okay, I'll put that down as a 4. Next one.
Councillor.
To my own committee now, the Have Fun committee.
Okay. Councillor Stapleton.
4.
Hello. Oh, I'm losing sound.
I've got a 4 from Councillor Stapleton there. Councillor John Stockwood.
4.
Councillor Maureen Stockwood.
4.
Councillor Wallace.
4.
Councillor Williams.
4.
Thank you.
We now move on to the Community and Environment Committee of the 18th of February 2020. Councillor Mrs Stockwood, do you want to present the minutes and move the recommendations?
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. I'm afraid some events have been, we've been overtaken rather from events. But as soon as possible, now that we've had a definite policy that we can progress matters, we will be progressing things. There's some interesting things on that about town guide, the happy to chat seat in the marketplace, which can't now be utilised.
Yeah.
The defibrillator, the consolidated parking order to
Excellent.
all those things. I move the minutes.
And all the recommendations in it. And I second that.
Yes.
Does anybody wish to speak to those minutes? Anybody? No. We now move to the vote on the minutes. Can we take all the names then, please?
Councillor Best.
Vote yes.
Councillor Leach.
Can I make no comment because I'm not part of that committee?
Okay. Councillor Lewis.
Yes.
Councillor Moni.
Yes.
Councillor Mosquer.
Yeah.
Councillor Purdue-Haran.
Yes.
Councillor Shelton.
4.
Councillor Sims.
Yes.
Councillor Stapleton.
Yes.
Councillor John Stockwood.
4.
Councillor Maureen Stockwood.
4.
Councillor Wallace.
4.
Councillor Williams.
4.
Thank you.
Okay, we now move on to the next vote. It's 7C, Policy and Resources Committee of the 3rd of March 2020. Can Councillor Purdue-Horan move the minute? Well, it's move the recommendations in the minutes and take any questions.
Mr. Mayor, I wish to move nearly all of the recommendations of the meeting of the Policy and Resources Committee held on the 3rd of March. Councillors will have seen the report. However, my understanding is with regard to the grant of 1,175 to be awarded to the bombers, I think it was most of that was relying on an event to be held at the Bingham Leisure Centre, and that obviously is not going ahead at the moment. So I think it might be prudent to just set that aside for now, and just move the recommendations and the other payments, including the £50 to the Methodist Church, and of course the recommendations for confidential business will be mentioned later on under that item. If anybody's got any comments about that.
I have something I'd like to say about that.
So that's Councillor Leach. Anybody other speakers?
Yes, I'd like to say something about that as well.
So your name is John Lewis, and so it's Councillor Leach and Councillor Lewis who would need to speak. Okay.
Do you want to go first, John?
Okay, Councillor Lewis first.
Okay, I will. I think some questions were asked on the 3rd of March about the company Bombers Skateboarding CIC, what it was, what its objects were, what the money would be used for, what benefits its activities were going to be for young people in Bingham, and also what constraints there were on us to deal with the money properly. I'm in a position to also there were some queries as to whether we actually enjoyed the level of support that we say we have, and also as to how many young people in Bingham were actually going to benefit from what we're proposing to do. I can answer any of those questions and be very happy to do so, but I don't think time is going to allow us to do that tonight. As regards the event that we're talking about, obviously we're not going to be able to hold a skateboarding event in Bingham Leisure Centre on the 31st of May, but nevertheless we have to have money in place in order to plan it for the first possible date that we will be able to do that, and to say that it has to go on hold in some way is something that I don't really understand, and also it seems to me that if the money which has been approved is not actually spent by the end of this month, then our next opportunity of having any money to pursue this very worthwhile venture, which I would add is supported by at least 6 members of this council, among others, then will be stalled for another year, which seems to me to be inappropriate and very regrettable. So I would say that okay, we can't spend all of the money we've asked for immediately, but we'd like to have it. We will take care of it. We won't fritter it away. So please, can we have our £1,175 and we'll pop it in our bank account and then we'll spend it when we can.
I wonder if I could ask to raise a point of clarification here.
Yeah.
Now, this meeting met and was properly constituted on the 3rd of March at 7 p.m. And at the end of that meeting, we made a number of recommendations that sit before full council for this evening. I don't think it's appropriate for the chair of that meeting to caveat the recommendations of a meeting in which I sat and made a decision. The chair of the meeting is, of course, quite entitled to make a comment on that, but that was not caveated and it was not suggested that it was dependent on that activity happening. So I don't see why that recommendation should change.
Okay.
The recommendation was clear.
Yes. And Councillor Purdue-Horan has not moved it. So he's moving all the other recommendations as a block, as I understand it. Is that correct?
If I could just explain, Mr. Chairman, on the 3rd of March, of course, nobody knew what was coming down the road towards us. And to be fair, everything changed on, Monday, the 23rd of March. We now have the law changed to assist councils to do business as appropriate. I'm not saying that we do not give the money in the future to the bombers, but at the moment, obviously nothing can go ahead. So I'm all in favour of keeping the money ring-fenced and to one side, but I don't think it's appropriate at this stage to hand over the grant.
Okay, so you're moving.
Can I come back on that, please, Mr. Mayor?
Point of order is what you're making, but yeah, one quickly.
Point of order, yes. The money is ring-fenced. This company is not one that it's not a commercial company. It's not a company that can do as it wishes with money that is donated or granted to it. It's under very strict constraints by statute and otherwise. And if the money has been voted, then it should be paid to the company, and it will be used for the purposes for which it's been given, as and when it is possible to move those purposes forward. And I think I do find the suggestion that it should be left in an account and ring-fenced in case it was misspent somewhat offensive and inappropriate.
I didn't say that.
Perhaps I can help move us forward, actually. So clearly it's an advisory committee and it's for full council to decide whether it accepts the recommendations of the policy and resource meeting. But I don't think we can retrospectively change those recommendations. The recommendation of P&R was that a grant of £1,175 be awarded to Bomber Skateboarding CIC. Now, it's down to full committee to decide what to do with that recommendation, but the recommendation is as I've read it
out. Can I have my words now?
Yep. Of course, Councillor. Yep,
thank you very much. Also being on a member of that group and also help run it, and also I am a director, I can assure you that money will remain in the account it's put in. That is a not-for-profit account, and it's what's the word, John? A local community
interest
group.
Company.
Right. I happened to be away down in London at a conference that had been agreed a year ago over. While I was away, that meeting was held. I have since I came back heard that one, some people, no name, I'm not mentioning any names now, so if anyone gets offended, that's their problem. One, we weren't legal, we are with Companies House. Two, I think the other one was we might run away with the money. I don't think so. This is for those of us, even all of you, if you want to get on a skateboard and have a go, would be welcome. Yeah. And three, there was another thing. I do not have a letter from Paddy Tippin, the Police and Crimes Commissioner. I do. It is in my house. It stays with me for GDPR reasons. All the letters I have got are kept with me because of GDPR. We all know what that is. We know what we're liable to face if that gets out. And I do not, one, like to think that people are, one, accusing me of being involved in something that's not legal. Two, that I'm a thief. And three, that I am a liar. Now, if that hurts anyone, so be it. Carry the can. I have said all I'm saying on it. But I was, fellow councillors, I'm ashamed. I really am.
Okay, that's
and
okay.
Hurt.
Right. Well, you made your point about a meeting you weren't at, and so currently at the position. So the whole point of
Councillor Williams.
Councillor Williams, you want to speak?
Can I, with my understanding for this grant application was against what's been said to a planned event at the end of May. And of course, with regulations now that I hope that event isn't going ahead. Of course, with the grant being what it was, would the Bombers, in having to reorganise this event, have additional costs that they may want to come to the council for in the future? Would that then be that because this was based on a particular event, and as been stated, we don't know when that next event is going to be, are they then able to put in another grant for further money in order to help with this event that is for the people of Bingham? Is it then beneficial for it that they're then to reapply either potentially for a greater amount from the town council in order to help with the funding of this event?
Can I go back to you on that, Gareth? No, I have no intention of applying for a bigger grant. There's no need for it. If the money is put in the account, it stays in the account and we sort it out. I don't want to apply for another grant.
Okay, so it's.
Can I just answer that query, Mr.
A short
Mayor?
period of order then.
The amount of £1,175 is a tiny fraction of the cost of the eventual project, which will be in excess of £250,000, which we're hoping to raise by way of grants and donations. The money we're asking for is in order to be able to set up promotional events and administrative costs, some of which have already been spent out of the director's own pockets. And there are things that we can do. The purposes for which the money was applied for is fully set out in the application form, and it's fully broken down. So anybody who reads it can see very easily which money can be spent now and which money will have to wait until we're able to recommence negotiations with Bingham Leisure Centre, Skate Nottingham CIC, and the other agencies.
Mr. Mayor, point of order. Point of order.
Yeah, he's on a point of order already, Councillor Purdue, and so just let him speak, which is a short point of order from Councillor Lewis, then a short point of Purdue from Councillor Purdue-Horan, and then we need to move to some kind of vote. Councillor Lewis, please speaking.
I've finished now, thanks.
Oh, okay. Councillor Purdue-Horan, point of order.
Mr. Mayor, we have two councillors who have declared an interest in this item. We would not allow a member of the public to do the same. They are taking advantage of their position as councillors on this particular item in speaking. I am not in any way seeking to make things difficult for the Bingham Bombers group, but we have a grant that was awarded before we knew what was happening, and we now know, where we are. It was for an event that is not going to go ahead. Therefore, it does not make sense for us to allow a public grant of public money to go ahead until we know what else is going to be in place. I think Councillor Williams has made quite a sensible suggestion in that, there may be different costs involved in the future for a similar event. Bingham Town Council wants to help, but perhaps at this time it is not appropriate that we go ahead with this particular recommendation based on an event that we know has been cancelled.
So you're moving all the recommendations in the Policy and Resources Committee report to the 3rd of March, except for the Bombers one, and you've got a seconder for that, which is me. Okay, so we'll take those votes on all the others except for the Bomber one.
I'm sorry, I don't. It's point of order. I don't think that is possible. Now, the recommendations. Hold on. The recommendations stand. The recommendations stand. Councillor Purdue-Horan has made his position entirely clear, and I think that's reasonable. It's down to full committee now to accept those recommendations. It's quite possible for the recommendation to be taken apart from the others.
Yeah, I think earlier this evening you spent quite a lot of time explaining that committees are advisory only. Now you're saying that committee advice must be accepted, as far as I understand it. Let's
be clear. I didn't say that. I didn't say that. Let's be absolutely clear. I made it clear it's an advisory committee.
We're having to take a named list on every single vote. So the votes that aren't contentious will be taken as a block. So everything except for the Bombers, we will take as a block, and then we'll have somebody needs to move some form of resolution relating to the Bombers recommendation, which by the sound of it may well be deferred back to committee, which is a valid resolution of the council. So for the non-contentious ones that nobody else is speaking for, can we have a vote on block on the non-contentious recommendations at this time?
So just to be clear, sorry, we'll be taking all the recommendations in block except the grant of 1,175 for the Bombers. Yeah?
Yep. We took all the other recommendations on block from the other committees. So can we do the non-contentious ones first?
Absolutely, non-contentious. So Councillor Best.
I'm going to abstain.
Okay.
Councillor Leach, Councillor Lewis. Councillor Money.
On the non-contentious issues, I vote for.
Councillor Moskwa.
You're muted, Paul.
Councillor Moskwa.
Okay, keep going.
Councillor Purdue-Horan.
For.
Councillor Shelton.
For.
Councillor Sims.
Yeah.
Abstain.
Councillor Stapleton.
For.
Councillor John Stockwood.
For.
Hello, Councillor Moskwa here. Sorry, I was waylaid with the childcare issue. For.
Thank you.
Let me go back. Yeah, Councillor Maureen Stockwood.
For.
Councillor Wallace.
For.
Councillor Williams.
For.
Okay, so the non-contentious issues are passed and approved by full council. In terms of the recommendations relating to the Bombers grant, Councillor Betts, sorry.
Is somebody moving that it's deferred back to the next Policy and Resources Committee? Is that what Councillor Purdue is saying? Right, so, and I'll second that then, so we have further discussion on it. It's deferred back to committee for further discussion. That's the motion that's been put. So if you're in favour of it going back to Policy and Resources to better understand the issues, you vote for. If not, you vote against, and then we'll have some other motion if necessary. So can we move to a vote on that matter, please, Clerk?
Councillor Best?
For. Right here, yeah, for. I've just confirmed, yeah, for.
Yeah. Councillor Money?
For.
Councillor Mosque?
For.
Councillor Purdue Haran?
For.
Councillor Shelton?
For.
Councillor Sims?
Abstain.
Councillor Stapleton?
For.
Councillor John Stockwood? Councillor John Stockwood?
Sorry, I muted myself. For.
Councillor Maureen Stockwood?
For.
Councillor Wallace?
For.
Councillor Williams?
For.
So that, right. Sorry.
Okay, keep speaking, sorry. I think that motion it's been back to committee for further discussion. So can we now move on block the 3 planning committees? Is that acceptable? Please.
Yes.
It's the clerk who's having to record the votes. You're going to move them en bloc, Councillor Shelton?
Yes, please.
Well done, and I second them. Does anybody wish to speak to the planning
point
meetings?
Of order, Councillor Williams.
Councillor Williams.
Don't we just note the minutes from the planning committee? We don't need to vote on them. Just trying to save some time.
We do, but are there any recommendations in any of those planning committee minutes?
No, Mr. Mayor.
All right, well, we'll just note them then, and we'll move on. Invoices, to approve the payment of invoices in excess of £2,000. Do we have any?
Yes, we do. Hold on a second whilst I'll just reorganise my papers. We have 2 invoices for payment over £2,000. One of them is retrospective approval, please, if I may, from council with regard to the printing of the town guides. This is a total amount of £2,296. It was approved for payment before year end, and whilst the invoice itself is over £2,000, because of a contribution by Councillor Purdue Haran, it takes that amount to below £2,000. So I just wanted to bring that before council to say if they just retrospectively approve it, please, just for the minutes.
Is there another one as well?
There is another one, but what I'll do is this relates to the Wychwood Road Play Park contribution.
Okay.
Yeah.
So for this item then, Councillor Purdue Horan declares an interest because he's helping reduce the cost of the town council with his county council grants. We thank his contributions, but it helps deliver the town guide to the villagers. For everybody,
I'll declare an interest and I won't vote on it.
Okay, but everybody else then, are we in favour of agreeing that or approving the payment of that invoice?
Yes.
Yes.
I move it. Councillor Shelton seconds it.
Yes.
And we then get, do we need to go through all the names? The clerk. Hello.
Yes, please. Let's just go through it quickly.
Okay.
Councillor Best.
Yes. Vote yes. For.
Thank you. Councillor Leach.
Abstain.
Councillor Lewis.
Yes.
Councillor Money.
Yes.
Councillor Mosquet.
Yeah.
Councillor Shelton.
For.
Councillor Sims.
Abstain.
Councillor Stapleton.
Yes.
Councillor John Stockwood.
For.
Councillor Maureen Stockwood.
For.
Councillor Wallace.
For.
Councillor Williams.
For.
Thank you.
So we now move on to item number 9.
Yep.
I'm just checking with the clerk. Is that all right? Yeah.
Yeah, that's absolutely fine. Thank you.
To resolve to subscribe to the Nottinghamshire Association of Local Councils and pay the subscription fee of £1,425.85. I move it. Councillor Purdue Horan seconds it. Anybody wish to speak?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. I've looked at alternatives, and they're in the order of £8,000 to £9,000 a year. So although I have, and some of us have criticisms of the now set up, at least it is a national organisation as well. So I'm content to second your proposal.
Thank you. Anybody else wish to speak? Say your name.
Councillor Wallace.
Councillor Wallace.
Yeah, just very, very briefly, I do actually want to thank Councillor Purdue Horan for doing the work to research other possible organisations. I do think that NALC is a good organisation to be part of, and I've done a bit of research myself, but clearly not as thoroughly as he has. So I'm thankful to him for that.
Okay. Anybody else wish to speak?
Yes, please.
Councillor Leach.
Does that mean us new councillors then get our training?
You were offered training the other week.
No, I wasn't here.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I didn't understand.
It wasn't.
It's certainly the case that we can go to Nottingham Association of Local Councils for training for councillors and other things. Okay, right. So all those. So anybody else wish to speak? Sorry. No.
Yeah.
We move to the vote then, please.
Councillor Best.
For.
Councillor Leach.
For.
Councillor Lewis.
For.
Councillor Money.
For.
Councillor Mosquet.
For.
Councillor Purdue Horan.
For.
Councillor Shelton.
For.
Councillor Sims.
Thank you, Francis. For.
Councillor Stapleton.
For.
Councillor John Stockwood.
For.
Councillor Maureen Stockwood.
For.
Councillor Wallace.
For.
Councillor Williams.
For.
Thank you.
Item number 10, Christmas Fair. To resolve to agree the joint working for the 27th of November 2020 Christmas Fair with Bingham Community Events. I move it. Councillor Purdue Horan seconds it. Anybody wish to speak?
Yes, please.
Councillor Leach.
That only can go forward if we're not under lockdown.
Yes.
So we can't say, yeah, it can go ahead yet.
It's not going ahead. It's that we're putting in place the amendments to discuss it, whether or not the joint working arrangements as listed in the actual papers. So anybody else wish to speak? No. Okay, then we move to the vote then, please.
Sorry, can I just ask a question? To resolve to agree the joint working for the 27th.
Yep.
What is the joint working?
We're working with Bingham Community Events.
So that's the extent of the resolution.
It's to make sure, well, the purpose of the resolution is to make sure that it's absolutely clear to everybody and publicly recorded that we will be making arrangements with Bingham Community Events. There was a meeting around the details of that, and we hope that the Community and Environment Committee takes this forward now to make sure it works within the resolution of the council to make that, to agree those arrangements and move forward. Okay?
Yeah, thank you.
Right. So can we now move to a vote then, please?
Councillor Best.
For.
Councillor Leach.
For.
Councillor Lewis.
For.
Councillor Money.
For.
Councillor Mosbert.
For.
Councillor Purdue-Haran.
For.
Councillor Shelton.
For.
Councillor Sims.
For.
Councillor Stapleton.
For.
Councillor John Stockwood.
For.
Councillor Maureen Stockwood.
For.
Councillor Wallace.
For.
Councillor Williams.
For.
Thank you.
Excellent. So on item 11, I do believe the two are quite closely linked together. Yes. So one is for granting funding and the other one is for agreeing the tender. So can I move those together at all? Would that be acceptable, Clark?
No.
You want a separate vote?
Yes, please.
Okay, so on A, I move it. Who wants to second it? Councillor Shelton looks busy.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'll second that.
Yeah, anybody want to speak? Are all in favour of it then? Do we want to split it? We have the vote then, sorry. Clark?
Councillor Best.
For.
Councillor Leach.
For with reservations.
Councillor Lewis.
For.
Councillor Marnie.
For.
Councillor Paul Moscow.
For.
Sorry, you've declared an interest, haven't you, Paul? Sorry, I've just scrubbed you. Councillor Purdue-Haran.
For.
Councillor Shelton.
For.
Councillor Sims.
For.
Councillor Stapleton.
For.
Councillor John Stockwood.
For.
Councillor Maureen Stockwood.
For.
Councillor Wallace.
For.
Councillor Williams.
For.
Thank you.
11B, to resolve to proceed with the previously resolved winning tender Compan for the play area improvement works. I move it, seconded by Councillor Shelton. Did anybody else wish to speak? No. Move to the vote then, please.
Councillor Best.
For.
Councillor Leach.
Same as the last time.
For.
With reservations.
Councillor Lewis.
I don't know anything about this proposal. I don't know anything about Compan, so therefore I'm going to abstain.
Okay. Councillor Money.
For.
Councillor Purdue-Haran.
For.
Councillor Shelton.
For.
Councillor Sims.
Abstain.
Councillor Stapleton.
For.
Councillor Maureen Stockwood.
For.
Councillor Wallace.
For.
Councillor Williams.
For.
Thank you. Can I just ask a couple of other questions with regards to the grant processing? So this, obviously, we've been successful in being awarded this grant from the FCC. We've obviously agreed to make the third-party funding sum available to them. They're asking for payment details, which I will forward. They're asking for the name, job title and contact address for the person authorised to sign the FCC Community Foundation funding agreement. Previously, I was authorised to submit the funding tender, so I was going to work on that basis to stay as the authorised signatory on the funding application, which applies from the 25th of November 2019.
Yeah.
Is that okay?
Super. Yeah.
Super.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Nobody's speaking against that one. So thank you very much then, because I do believe the public meeting agenda is complete. Is that correct? Clark, please.
Yes, it is.
Right, so then I declare this meeting closed at 9:26, and thank you everybody for attending.
Can I just ask you to suspend standing orders, please, John, before you go to confidential business?
I just declared the meeting closed, but go on then. Is it going to be quick?
Because
we wish everybody. I'll have to take a vote on it, you know. Is it your wish that I suspend standing orders? Everybody say yes.
Yes.
Thank you. There we go then.
Yeah.
Very quickly then.
Thank you,
Elizabeth.
everybody. Yeah, obviously, as a member of the public, I would just like to personally thank the staff, specifically Joanne Riddle, for actually pulling this meeting together tonight, because I wouldn't imagine that it was an easy task to take on. It's not something that would be normally in her remit of her job, and I think she's done a fabulous job to get everybody together and allow the council to progress along with the town clerk.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much.
Agree.
Right, okay.
Elizabeth.
And just on a
Here.
final subject, I know that you're all under immense pressure, and it's difficult in these times to try and do the right thing because there's so many other people's guidelines that you need to follow, and it's not a priority. But can I just ask you to start clarifying what's going to happen with Christmas, because we do actually need to start booking things. I understand that it may not go ahead, but it shouldn't stop us at booking things and planning things, because this community massively needs something to look forward to. And with the grant money that you paid to Bingham Community Events for VE Day, obviously VE Day has had to be cancelled, but we are looking at rebooking it for VG Day. And if that doesn't happen, then that money will go into a big party at the end of all of this, where we bring the community together.
Pandemic end party. The clerk is indicating.
Sorry, it's just to go back to Wychwood Road. One question that we've been asked by the grant awarding authority is with regard to a project publicity plan. And I was going to suggest that I work with Councillor Mosquer in his role with the BCPP, and if required with our Play Park consultant as well. Yeah,
sounds reasonable to me. Excellent.
Thank you.
Operational decision. So I close the meeting at 9:28 then. Thank you very much, everyone.